Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. Today, and I'm actually going to change the energy straight away because we're actually going to talk about something very serious, and I don't want to be all big YouTuber about it. As many of you may know, that a Hollywood actress by the name of AnnaLynne McCord recently wrote and recorded a poem on the Ukraine conflict. The Ukraine invasion by Vladimir Putin, and I won't say by Russia because from what I've been reading, the Russian people didn't ask for the war. Anyway, this is all politics. It's Vladimir Putin. Putin has decided to invade Ukraine, and a Hollywood actress by the name of AnnaLynne McCord has written a poem and recorded it and released it on Twitter, and it's getting a lot of backlash. The poem, titled "Sorry I Was Not Your Mother," is not going down well, so I thought, you know, we are a poetry channel, let's take a look and discuss why this is, why it's not being well received. For so long now, Hollywood has been getting it so wrong with these sorts of videos when it comes to current affairs and current crisis. You'd think that they would learn to just stop. Just leave it alone. You'd think they'd learn by now, but they haven't. McCord's latest poem is being hit by the general public, and I sat there watching it myself, trying to keep a level head and a balanced view. So in this video I'm going to split it into two parts: why I think it is socially wrong and why it was awkward and why everyone else didn't like it, and then I'm going to look at the poem itself as a poet and talk about it from that point of view too. So let's get into it. Dear Hollywood actors, stop. Please stop dramatizing real shit. Okay, this is real life, this is death and pain, a lot of it. Stop dramatizing it. I think the problem with AnnaLynne's video and reading is that it is performed. She's performing it like she would her. I mean, I'm not aware of who she is, sorry, I haven't seen any of her work, but I would imagine she's an actress in films and stuff. She's reading it as if it is a monologue or a speech in a film or a TV show. That's the impression I got. She is treating it as a performance. It feels terribly floaty. It's not grounded in reality at all. This is, by the way, this is just my opinions, my thoughts, what I took away from it. It doesn't feel grounded in reality and the seriousness of it. It feels very sort of preachy, I'm going to save the world kind of thing. I mean, it reminds me a lot of that video that went out during the height of Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd atrocity, where all these Hollywood actors came together to say, I will take responsibility. I mean, just look at Aaron Paul's performance in that video. It's just like, what are you doing? It's so far removed from reality and us, you know, the everyday people. I will leave a link to that video in the description as well. I'll link a video to AnnaLynne's video as well. All the links will be in the description. So Hollywood actors, and just anyone really, but mostly it seems to be coming from Hollywood actors all the time. My message to you is, if you're going to do videos like this, don't dramatize it. Like, this is actually happening. It's not like a big climax at the end of a film where your character comes to save the day. This is actually happening, and you need to stop dramatizing. So another issue I had with the video was its timing. Like, we're 6 days into the conflict now, and it's not de-escalating. It's getting worse. More innocent lives and more soldiers, but more lives, like, are being lost. This is not the time to put out an overly dramatic reading of a poem. Just timing seems off. I hope that it wasn't a case of, I need to do something now to further my career. I'm not going to say that's what happened. I don't think so. In fact, I'm going to summarize my whole feelings towards AnnaLynne, and it's probably going to take you by surprise, but I just think the timing was very off. This thing is getting worse and worse. The world is getting scarier and scarier. People are starting to seriously worry about nuclear war and stuff. But even if we weren't worrying about nuclear war, as I said, more and more lives are being lost. Things are escalating rather than de-escalating. This isn't the time, I don't feel, for a video like this. Maybe if it was done in a different way, sure, but right now we didn't need a video that feels self-involved and dramatic and just, it was just not good timing. I kind of went off script there, and then I looked at my script and realised that the whole self-involved point was my segue into my next point. So I added it. It was in the edit. I will have to put it in, but it will probably feel a bit jarring, but it was my segue. So it just feels terribly self-involved. And we'll look into the actual poem and the poetry in a moment, but the poem is about if she was Putin's mother, and there's a whole other thing to discuss about that. But it does feel a bit self-involved, a bit like I'm gonna save the world. I'm repeating myself because I have gone off script, and I'm gonna come round to all of this because I don't think that was her message. That's not why she did it, I don't think. But that is the message that comes across, at least for me, that it feels very self-involved. Much like all the other videos, like the one I've mentioned, the Black Lives Matter and the Imagine and video that went out at some point. These actors can't seem to help but make it about themselves. Like, this is a serious fucking situation, and somehow they flip it on themselves. I don't think this was her intention, and probably wasn't their intention in I'll Take Responsibility. I get what the message was, but it comes across wrong. It comes across self-involved. Maybe it is the over dramification of the whole thing, but it just feels like they've somehow turned this all onto them. But really, when you ask yourself, can we really blame them? I mean, in the past we've put so much importance on celebrity as a society and culture, that I guess they're kind of used to thinking that everyone really needs this. I don't know, I'm going off script again, but you know, in the society we've created where we've put so much importance on celebrity, I guess it kind of makes sense that they think that this is what they need to be doing when actually they don't. I think since the pandemic we are very much kind of losing our interest in celebrity and realizing what's actually important in the world now. And I guess maybe this is the social change that is happening. So when we see these videos, it kind of just jars on us because they feel so removed from us and so removed from reality. But this is a poetry channel, and that is a discussion for a different channel. That's a different story for a different channel. We're here. I just turned my heating on with my foot because it's cold. That's a different story for a different channel. We're here to talk about poetry. So with all that being said, I've just realised I've done this whole video and haven't even checked that I'm in focus. I gotta stop doing this. Hope I'm in focus now. I've got to stop doing this. So before we move on to the poem itself, do I hate on AnnaLynne? Actually, no, I don't. Despite my harsh breakdown and how I actually feel about the video itself, I don't hate on AnnaLynne McCord as a person. I don't think she set out to come across as self-involved, to come across as, you know, self-glorifying or anything like this. I think she genuinely just felt like she had to stand up against the atrocity that's going on, and this is the only way she knows how, through creative expression. So no, I don't hate on her at all. She was just trying to help, I really hope, and I really think. Does it come down to the fact that these celebrities live such privileged lives that they are removed from reality and removed from what's actually happening, and they do live on some other strange plane up here where we're all down here on the ground? Maybe. So I think she's just trying to make an effort, trying to do something, trying to show unity through creative expression. She's an actress, not a poet, and it just didn't hit the mark, which is ironic because actors have to hit marks. My camera battery died. So what was I saying? So yeah, poets are always writing poetry about current affairs. We do it. That's what we do. I myself wrote a poem on the day of the first UK lockdown for the pandemic, in our loneliness we come together. So a lot of people are saying about the timing, again the timing, did she do this for clout to further her reputation? I really hope not. It is what poets do. I think poetry is at the forefront of creative expression when things happen, because bang, 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 you know, you sit down, you write and stuff. Whereas filmmaking, things like filmmaking and photography, you've got to go out and do lots. But poetry has always been at the forefront of current affairs, right? It just again comes down to the timing and the situation and what the situation calls for. I wrote my poem on the first day of lockdown because I felt like, you know, I wanted I felt like there was going to be a unity amongst us. But that's very different to doing something on a very serious, very much happening right now conflict. Another thing that McCord is getting a lot of hate for is the theme itself. She talks about how if she was Putin's mother, she would have given more love. And a lot of people are saying that she's blaming Putin's mother. Now, I don't know. I mean, I like to give her the benefit of the doubt that she's just a woman. She has that motherly instinct, and she's writing from that perspective rather than blaming Putin's mother. I don't know the relationship between Putin's mother. Maybe AnnaLynne McCord knows more about Putin's relationship than we give her credit for, or than we know. And maybe Putin did have a bad relationship with his mother. But I don't think she came out trying to say that. I think she was just coming from a motherly instinct. Maybe I'm giving her a lot of credit. I will give her a lot of credit. I don't know her, and I don't want to just jump on the hate train. So I'm not going to ridicule her for that. It does come across that way, and I can see why a lot of people are saying that, and yeah, it can be interpreted that way. But I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and say that's not what she was trying to do. You know, we can't... The world we live in now, you know, say what you like. I don't want to get into too much politics, but we live in a time now where it's very easy to hate someone for our interpretation of something, but everyone can have a different interpretation. I'm going to go down the route of a different interpretation and say that she wasn't really blaming Putin's mother, but it can be read that way very easily. That's all I'll say. So let's actually move on to the poem itself. I keep turning the heater on with my foot. Let's take a look at the poem itself. I've got it written here, or at least some of it anyway, and I'll try to stay away from the dodgy performance, hopefully. My neighbours are in their garden. Hopefully you can still hear me over their voices, and their voices isn't too distracting. So, if I was your mother, you would have been so loved, held in the arms of joyous light. Never would this story's plight, the world unfurled before our eyes, a pure demise of a nation sitting peaceful under a night sky. If I was your mother, the world would have been warm, so much laughter and joy, nothing would harm. I can't imagine the stain, the soul-stealing pain that the little boy you must have seen and believed, and the formulation of thought quickly taught, showed that you lived in a cruel, unjust world. Is this why you now decide no one will get the best of you? Is this why you do not hide nor shy away from taking back the world? Was it because so early in life all that strife wrecked your little body with fear? So I think, honestly, I just think the performance of the poem is what did most of the damage. Look, I'm not saying this is the best poem in the world, but I really want to be careful about saying things against her writing. It comes across as someone who's written their first poem, or someone who hasn't really spent time learning poetry. And I get, you know, that's okay. We learn by doing. Everyone starts as a beginner at some point, right? But owing to her platform, I guess you could say that it just wasn't right. But why? Maybe you can tell me in the comments, like, why wasn't it? Why do you think this didn't come off well? I think, as far as the poem is concerned, it can be jarring in places. Like the rhyme schemes are very sort of not elaborate. They're very basic rhyme schemes actually, and there's some very basic lines. I don't mean to tear it apart because it does feel like, I'm going to summarize before we get to the summary. It does feel like she just wanted to stand up against bad shit that's happening, and this is her way of doing that without taking up arms, you know. And can we really blame someone for having that platform? You know, how many other poets watching this right now? I know there's been some on the Cove that have written about the Ukraine conflict and waking up to war and stuff, but they haven't been ridiculed because they haven't got that massive platform. It's difficult, isn't it? It's not the best poem in the world, but I do think the performance heightened the fact that it's not the best poem in the world. But it's also not a terrible poem, is it? There's some really nice stuff in here, actually. And I kind of enjoy the view, I kind of enjoy the point of view of looking at Putin as a child and thinking about, wow, what has he gone through to be this much of a... You know what I mean? There is a lot to be said. There's a lot to be... Shall we just summarise? I've got a whole thing about the poetry here that I've said. And I've put lots of... ... because I just, when I was writing the script, I just didn't know how to put into words how I feel about it, because I am very conflicted. I kind of support the fact that poets write about what's going on and express their worries and their pains and their anger, and that we should absolutely do that, whether you're a beginner or a professional. But it does feel off, like the watching the video does feel wrong and cringy and ooh, no, sort of feeling. And I wonder if an acclaimed poet, like the poet laureate Simon Armitage, or an acclaimed poet, if they had done this, how would it have been received? I mean, they would have... The thing about... I don't want to say staying in your lane. I'm not going to say staying in your lane, even though I've just said it, and now you know that was my quick train of thought. It's not about staying in your lane, because I'll always encourage people to write poetry. I love doing it, and I love encouraging people. But if an acclaimed poet who is trained in poetry, who knows about tone and knows about word choices and stuff, had done this, it probably would have been massively powerful. And it does kind of make me think about why people think poetry doesn't have to be taken as seriously as other art forms. But then raw talent, you know, it's just such a conflict. But then raw talent, you know, people who haven't studied can write amazing stuff. So maybe I'm just going to throw it to you guys. I've shared all my thoughts, and I'm going to just throw it to you guys to leave it in the comments section below. But to summarise officially on my script, I will close with saying, Hollywood, please stop dramatising current affairs, especially when they're especially when they are as serious as what's going on right now. Believe it or not, during times of crises and stuff like what's happening, we don't actually need to hear from you. I know it sounds strange, but we don't actually need to hear from you unless you have an absolute fire burning in your stomach and it's coming from a very genuine place and not from a place of, I'm a public figure, my fans will want to hear from me, or the world should hear from me, or my agent is telling me to do this. Unless it's coming from a real fire, it's better you don't say anything at all. And to AnnaLynne McCord, I think you got this wrong. But I'm not going to jump on the hate train. I don't hate you for it. I think it was just misguided, and I think you just wanted to make some sort of stand against Putin, and so I respect you for that. And to other poets doing it, I respect you for that. But I will say, just make sure you absolutely consider every little word, every inflection, every sort of whatever. Just really consider it. I mean, you should be doing that anyway with your poems, but when you're doing stuff like this, really consider consider what you're doing before you're putting it out there. Another bit of advice to poets out there from me: take it if you want, don't take it, it's up to you. If you're going to write a poem on a war or a conflict or a devastation or anything, you know, as serious as this, make the poem about the situation. Don't make the poem about you. Maybe further down the line, in 5 years' time, when things have blown over, if that's the right phrase. I don't know if things ever blow over with stuff like this, but certainly when things have calmed down, de-escalated, then maybe you can write a poem about you in the situation. Unless you were actually in the situation. If you are someone experiencing this and you were in the situation, of course, please, it's so important to write a poem about your experiences. But if you're someone like AnnaLynne McCord or myself who are detached from it, and you want to write a poem because you feel like you should, please consider writing the poem on the situation rather than what you would do differently, or, you know, because it's not about you. It's about what's going on, unless you're in the situation. Anyway, that's it for this video. It's probably going to be very long and ranty, but that's it for this video. My name's Adam Gary and I am a poet. Let's continue to stand up and against dictatorships and bullies and unite together for democracy and love and peace. That's what we all want. Let's keep sending our love to those who need it right now. And if you want to do anything tangible to really support Ukraine and the people of Ukraine, I'll leave some links down below on ways for you to do that. Of course, I send my love and support and respect to Ukraine right now, and of course to other people around the world that are worrying about further consequences of what's going on. Just stay calm, stay united, good always comes through, and peace, always peace, peace and love. Take care.